I used to believe in fairy tales. I used to believe that if you loved someone enough, if you worked hard enough, if you were patient enough, everything would work out in the end. I used to believe that marriage was sacred, that vows meant something, that the person you chose to spend your life with would never betray you. I was wrong, so incredibly painfully wrong. My name's Andrea. I'm 41, a high school English teacher, and I've been married to my husband Marcus for 15 years. We've got 2 kids, a daughter named Sophie, who's 13, and a son named Caleb, who's 10. We live in a beautiful house in a quiet neighborhood, the kind with tree-lined streets and neighbors who wave when they're out walking their dogs. We're that family, the one with the perfectly manicured lawn, the annual Christmas card, and the picture-perfect holidays that make everyone on social media jealous. Or so I thought. Marcus is a successful architect, the kind of man who commands attention when he walks into a room. He's tall, handsome, and has a smile that could charm the pants off anyone. He's also ambitious, driven, and has a way of making you feel like you're the most important person in the world when he's talking to you. He's the kind of man other women wish their husbands were like. I met him when I was 26. Fresh out of grad school and working my first real teaching job. He was 31, already established, already on his way to the top. He swept me off my feet from the very first moment. He was everything I'd ever wanted in a man. He was charming, confident, and he made me feel like I was special, like I was the only woman in the world. We dated for 2 years before he proposed. It was a fairy tale proposal, the kind you see in movies. He took me to a fancy restaurant, got down on one knee in front of everyone, and told me he wanted to spend the rest of his life with me. He'd even hired a violinist to play in the background. It was perfect. I said yes, of course. I was madly in love with him. I couldn't imagine my life without him. He was my everything. Our wedding was beautiful. A lavish affair with hundreds of guests. A 5-tier cake, and a live band. I wore a white dress that cost more than my first car, and I felt like a princess. I walked down the aisle on my father's arm, and when I saw Marcus waiting for me at the altar, I felt like the luckiest woman in the world. I thought I had it all. I thought I was living the dream. But dreams have a way of turning into nightmares. The first sign that something was wrong came about a year into our marriage. Marcus's sister, Miranda, started visiting more frequently. She'd show up at our house unannounced, stay for hours, and make herself at home. She'd criticize my cooking, my housekeeping, my parenting. She'd make snide comments about my clothes, my job, my background. I tried to be patient. I tried to be understanding. She was family, after all. She was Marcus's sister, and I wanted to have a good relationship with her. I invited her to dinner, included her in family events, and made sure she felt welcome. I bought her thoughtful gifts for her birthday, remembered her favorite foods, and made an effort to connect with her. But nothing I did was ever good enough. Miranda was 35, stunningly beautiful, and had a way of making everyone around her feel small. She was the golden child of the family, the one who could do no wrong, the one who'd always been the center of attention. She had a successful career as a corporate attorney, a beautiful home, and a string of admirers who worshipped the ground she walked on. She was used to getting what she wanted, and she didn't like it when things didn't go her way. And from the moment she met me, she made it clear that I wasn't welcome in her family. She'd always been possessive of Marcus, and she saw me as a threat. She'd never accepted that he'd chosen to build a life with someone else. She'd always treated me like an intruder, like I'd stolen her brother away from her. The first time I met her was at a family dinner. I'd been nervous, of course. Meeting your in-laws is always stressful. But I'd prepared myself for awkward questions and polite conversation. I hadn't prepared myself for Miranda. She looked me up and down like I was something unpleasant she'd stepped in. "So you're the one my brother's been talking about," she said, her voice dripping with condescension. "I have to say, you're not what I expected. You're so ordinary, so average." I forced a smile. Thank you, I think. Marcus has told me so much about you. He says you're very successful. I am, she said, flipping her hair. I've worked very hard to get where I am. I don't have time for people who don't take their careers seriously. I have standards. I understand. I take my career very seriously too. I'm a teacher. I love what I do. A teacher, she repeated, like it was a dirty word. How noble. I suppose someone has to educate the children. It must be so rewarding, in its own way. I couldn't do it myself, of course. I need more intellectual stimulation. I felt my face flush with anger, but I held my tongue. I didn't want to cause a scene. I didn't want to make a bad impression on Marcus's family. So I smiled and nodded and pretended everything was fine. I let her belittle me. I let her humiliate me. I let her make me feel small, but everything was not fine. And over the next few years, Miranda made my life a living hell. I remember one Thanksgiving, about 3 years into our marriage, when she truly crossed a line. I'd spent 2 days preparing the meal, brining the turkey, making my grandmother's stuffing recipe from scratch, polishing the silverware until it gleamed. I wanted everything to be perfect, to prove to Marcus's family that I was worthy of their name. The table looked beautiful, the candles were lit, and the smell of roasted herbs filled the house. For a moment, I actually let myself relax. Miranda arrived late, of course, sweeping in without apology and handing me a bottle of cheap wine she'd obviously grabbed from a gas station on the way. She air-kissed my cheek, leaving a smear of red lipstick I'd have to scrub off later, and then made a beeline for Marcus. Throughout dinner, she dominated the conversation, telling stories about her high-profile cases, her luxury vacations, her dazzling social life. Every time I tried to speak, she'd cut me off mid-sentence, or turn to someone else, as if I hadn't said a word. Then came the moment I'll never forget. I was carrying the pumpkin pie to the table, carefully balancing it on my grandmother's antique platter, when Miranda suddenly announced, "Oh, Andrea, you really shouldn't have bothered with homemade dessert. Store-bought would have been fine. We all know baking isn't your strength." She said it with a sweet smile, but her eyes were cold. The room went quiet. My mother-in-law glanced down at her plate. Marcus coughed awkwardly, and I just stood there, holding that pie I'd stayed up until midnight to make, feeling like the floor had opened beneath me. Later that night, when I told Marcus how humiliated I felt, he sighed and said, "That's just Miranda. She doesn't mean anything by it. You're being too sensitive." He kissed my forehead and rolled over to sleep, leaving me staring at the ceiling, wondering if I really was the problem. Miranda's attacks were subtle at first, almost imperceptible. She was a master of the passive-aggressive insult. The backhanded compliment, the comment that seemed innocent on the surface but was actually designed to cut deep. She'd make snide remarks about my clothes, my job, my background. She'd question my parenting, my cooking, my housekeeping. She'd roll her eyes when I spoke, interrupt me mid-sentence, and make passive-aggressive comments that left me feeling humiliated and small. She'd say things like, "Oh, I see you're wearing that dress again. I guess you don't have much of a wardrobe budget. Do you? I suppose that's what happens when you're a teacher." Or, "I'm surprised you can afford to live in this neighborhood. I suppose teaching pays better than I thought." Or maybe Marcus is covering most of the bills. Or, "Marcus must be so patient to put up with your quirks. He's always been so kind. I don't know how he does it." I tried to ignore it. I tried to rise above it. I tried to be the bigger person. I told myself that she was just jealous, that she was just insecure, that she was just lashing out because she felt threatened. I told myself that if I just kept being kind, she'd eventually come around. But it was exhausting. Every family gathering was a minefield. Every holiday was a nightmare. Every dinner was an exercise in endurance. I dread family events for weeks, knowing that I'd have to face her, knowing that she'd find some way to make me feel small. And then she started spreading rumors about me. She'd tell the family that I was having an affair. She'd say she'd seen me with another man, that she'd caught me in a compromising position, that she'd heard me on the phone with someone I shouldn't have been talking to. She'd tell them that I was stealing from Marcus, that I was neglecting our children, that I was unstable, that I was dangerous, that I was a liar, that I was a fraud. At first, no one believed her. Marcus defended me. His parents were skeptical. His cousins thought she was being dramatic. But Miranda was persistent. She chipped away at their trust. Day after day, week after week, year after year, she sowed seeds of doubt in their minds, and eventually they started to take root. I started to notice people looking at me differently. Marcus's mother would give me strange looks, like she was trying to figure something out. His father would avoid making eye contact, like he couldn't bear to look at me. His cousins would whisper when I walked into the room, their voices dropping to hushed tones. I was being isolated, and I didn't even know it. I was being set up, and I had no idea. The breaking point came at a family wedding. It was Marcus's cousin's wedding, a lavish affair with hundreds of guests. I was already on edge, dreading the inevitable confrontation with Miranda. I'd been dreading it for weeks. The wedding was beautiful. The bride was stunning, the groom was handsome, and the reception was being held at a country club that looked like it belonged in a magazine. There was champagne, a 5-course meal, and a live band that played all the classics. I was standing by the bar, having a drink, trying to relax, when Miranda appeared beside me. She was wearing a stunning red dress that probably cost more than my monthly rent. She looked like a movie star, and she knew it. Her hair was perfectly styled, her makeup was flawless, and she was holding a glass of champagne like she owned the place. "Enjoying yourself?" she asked, her voice dripping with false sweetness. "I hope you're having a good time. I know how hard it must be for you to be around so many successful people." I said, "until just now. Until you showed up. Still bitter, I see. You really should let go of that anger." "Andrea, it's not healthy. It's making you look old. It's making you look bitter." I could feel my hands trembling, but I refused to give her the satisfaction of seeing me break. I set my glass down on the bar, the crystal clinking too loudly against the marble. "Is there something you want, Miranda, or do you just enjoy tormenting me? Do you have nothing better to do?" "I just wanted to warn you," she said, leaning in so close I could smell her perfume. "Something expensive and suffocating. You think you've won. You think you've got Marcus. You think you're safe. But you're wrong. I'm going to destroy you. I'm going to make sure everyone knows what you really are. By the time I'm finished, you won't have a husband. You won't have a reputation. And those precious children of yours will look at you like you're a stranger. And I'm going to enjoy every minute of it." Her words hit me like a physical blow. My stomach dropped, my vision blurred at the edges, and for a terrifying moment I thought I might actually be sick right there on the polished floor. She wasn't just being cruel anymore, she was declaring war. I stared at her, my heart pounding so hard I could feel it in my throat. "You're insane. You're sick. You need help. You need serious professional help." "Maybe I do," she said, smiling. That perfect practiced smile that made my skin crawl. "But I'm going to take you down with me. I'm going to make sure you lose everything, just like I did." I walked away, my hands shaking, my heels clicking unsteadily across the dance floor. I locked myself in the bathroom and gripped the edge of the marble sink, staring at my reflection. My face was pale, my eyes wide with something between terror and fury. I didn't know what to do. I didn't know how to fight her. She was too powerful, too connected, too determined. She'd been planning this for years. She'd been setting me up for a long time. But as I stood there, something shifted inside me. I looked at my reflection, at the woman who'd survived years of insults, who'd raised 2 children, who'd built a career she was proud of, who'd bent over backwards trying to please people who would never be pleased, and I realized I wasn't going to be a victim anymore. I couldn't let her win. I couldn't let her destroy my life. I started doing some digging. I needed to know more about Miranda. I needed to find her weaknesses. I needed to find a way to stop her once and for all. I hired a private investigator. It cost me a small fortune, but I didn't care. I needed to know the truth. I needed to know who I was dealing with. The PI was a quiet, meticulous man named Robert, with tired eyes and a voice that never rose above a murmur. I met him at a diner on the other side of town, far from anyone who might recognize me, and I handed over everything I knew. I need to know what she's hiding, I told him, sliding an envelope of cash across the sticky table. Everyone has secrets. Find hers. 2 weeks later, Robert called me back to the same diner. He slid a thick manila folder across the table, his expression unreadable. What he'd found made my blood run cold. Miranda had been hiding things, big things. She'd been living a double life for years, and she'd done everything she could to keep it hidden. The folder contained photographs of Miranda with a man I didn't recognize, a handsome, silver-haired man in his 50s dining at secluded restaurants, walking hand in hand through a park, disappearing into a hotel room. There were printed emails, intimate and explicit, spanning back nearly a decade. There were hotel receipts, flight records, even a lease agreement for an apartment registered under a shell company. But that wasn't all. I found out that Miranda had been having an affair of her own. For 10 years, she'd been sleeping with a married man, a man who was also married to someone else. His name was David Hartwell, a prominent real estate developer with a wife and 3 daughters. She'd been destroying another family, just like she was trying to destroy mine. While she'd been painting me as an adulteress, a thief, a liar, she'd been living a lie so massive it took my breath away. I sat in that diner booth, the photographs spread out in front of me, and I felt something I hadn't felt in years: hope. I had her. I had all the evidence I needed to destroy her. I went to Marcus. I showed him the evidence. I told him everything. "Marcus, I need to show you something," I said, sitting him down at the kitchen table one evening after the kids were in bed. "Something that's going to change everything. Something you need to see." He looked up from his phone, a flicker of irritation crossing his face. "Can it wait? I've got a deadline tomorrow." "No," I said, my voice steadier than I felt. "It can't wait." I set the folder in front of him and watched his face as he opened it. The photos, the emails, the text messages, the proof that his sister, the golden child, the one he'd always defended, had been having an affair for 10 years. His face went pale. His jaw went slack. "What is this? Where did you get this?" "I hired a private investigator. I needed to know the truth. I needed to protect myself. And now you need to know it too." He flipped through the pages, his hands starting to shake. "I don't understand. Miranda wouldn't do this. She's my sister. She wouldn't lie to me. She wouldn't destroy another family. She's been lying to you from day one," I said, leaning across the table. "She's been lying to everyone. She's been manipulating you, controlling you, using you, and all this time. She's been accusing me of being the unfaithful one. She's been poisoning your family against me while she's been living this secret life. Look at the dates, Marcus. 10 years. This has been going on for 10 years. He stared at the evidence, and I watched the realization dawn on his face, the slow, painful collapse of the image he'd held of his sister his whole life. He didn't speak for a long time. When he finally looked up, his eyes were wet. "I'm so sorry," he whispered. "I should have believed you. I should have protected you." I went to the wife of the man Miranda had been having an affair with. I showed her the evidence. Her name was Elena Hartwell, and she was a quiet, dignified woman who'd spent years suspecting something was wrong, but never having the proof. When I laid it all out in front of her, she didn't cry. She just nodded slowly, her face hardening with resolve. She was devastated, of course. But she was also determined. She wasn't going to let Miranda get away with it. Together we exposed Miranda. We went to the family. to the partners at her law firm, to the people who'd believed her lies for so long. We told everyone the truth. We made sure that everyone knew exactly what she'd done. Her reputation was destroyed. Her career was ruined. The law firm let her go within a week. The man she'd been having the affair with cut off all contact. The family that had once treated her like royalty turned their backs. Her life was over. And I was free. It's been 2 years since everything happened. I've moved on. I've rebuilt my life. I've found happiness again. Marcus and I are still together. It took a long time to rebuild our trust, long nights of painful conversations, months of marriage counseling, and a lot of honest reckoning with the ways he'd failed to stand up for me. But we did it. He finally saw me again, not as the woman his sister told him I was, but as the woman I'd always been. We're stronger than ever. Miranda is gone. She moved away to some distant city where no one knows her name. She started a new life. I don't know where she is now. I don't care. I've forgiven her in my own way. Not because she deserves it, but because I can't carry that anger around forever. It would poison me, and she's already taken enough of my years. So what's the lesson here? What's the takeaway from all of this? I think it's this: sometimes the people who seem the most charming are the most dangerous. Sometimes the people who smile the brightest have the darkest secrets. And sometimes the people we trust the most are the ones who betray us the worst. But that doesn't mean we should stop trusting. It doesn't mean we should stop loving. It just means we should be careful. We should protect ourselves. We should always be vigilant. If you're reading this and you're in a situation like the one I was in, I want you to know something. I want you to know that you're not alone. I want you to know that it's not your fault. And I want you to know that you have the strength to fight back. You deserve better. You deserve to be happy. You deserve to be loved. You deserve to have a life that's filled with joy, not pain. So take it one day at a time, one step at a time. And remember, you are stronger than you know, braver than you feel, and capable of more than you can imagine. Loved this story? Hit that subscribe button right now and turn on the bell icon so you never miss a video. I upload brand new stories every single day. Gripping, emotional, and packed with twists that'll keep you guessing until the very end. Don't forget to like this video if it gave you all the feels. Comment below. Have you ever been betrayed by someone you trusted? How did you handle it? I read every single comment. Share this story with someone who needs to hear it. Sometimes the best lessons come from other people's experiences. Got a story idea? Drop it in the comments. Your suggestion might just become the next video on this channel. Subscribe now and join our growing family of story lovers. New videos drop daily at 7 a.m. EST. Perfect to watch with your morning coffee. Trust me, you don't want to miss what's coming next. Until next time, stay strong, stay brave, and never let anyone make you feel like you're not enough. Because you are. You always have been, and you always will be.